the whole idea of this leadership training course, these 3 sessions that we came up with, was really, first of all, provide an introduction to Curtis. So that was mainly geared for some of our newer employees. Discuss the roles of the leader in the organization, right? It doesn't matter whether you've been in this company for 2 months or 20 years. You guys are all leaders because each one of you is the face of Curtis to our clients. Whether you're a foreman, project manager, or whatever your role may be, you're out there interacting with the client on a much more frequent basis than I am, or someone in estimating is, or someone in accounting is. You are the face of Curtis, okay? So you are a leader in the organization, and we want to make sure that you understand what do we expect from you, and how can we help you to be the best possible leader. So session 1 was an introduction. We talked about job setup. Many of you were here for that. Session 2 was all about job execution, how we actually do what we need to do. And today we're going to talk about soft skills and technology. First, I want to go through the Curtis mission statement. Some of you have seen this before, some of you haven't. I want to read it because I think it's important that you understand it. Not that you got it memorized, I don't have it memorized, but you should know the key points. Our mission is to serve our clients in the most effective, efficient, and innovative way while maintaining a commitment to the lives and well-being of all of our employees, our partners, and the communities we work in. We strive every day to strengthen our clients and provide them with successful project experiences through our willingness to fulfill their needs, even those that have not been expressed. We ensure not only our own, but our clients' distinction in the industry. Right? This industry, drywall and carpentry in particular, and many other trades, there's a very low barrier to entry. What does that mean? Any one of you, and any one of hundreds of thousands of other people in this city could go out tomorrow and open your own drywall and ceiling business. Really doesn't take a lot. I mean, you gotta have some skill, clearly, but there's not a lot of infrastructure you need to say, hey, I'm now Joe's Drywall and Carpentry, right? So we have to distinguish ourselves in the industry by being the best possible at providing a great service to our clients. That's what makes them come back to us time and time again. So what does that mean? That at the end of the day, their projects are successful, financially successful, successful on time frame, and successful in terms of quality. When the client is successful, Curtis is successful, and then each of the employees here at Curtis can be successful. So this mission statement is really critical because we focus not only on ourselves, but on our clients, because that's what helps ensure our collective success. So just some quick roles of the leader. We've looked at this before. Communications, internal and external, right? That's one of the things that each of you do. Budget and financial management. We know we talk a lot on a very regular basis about projections, about margins, about change orders. Obviously, if we cannot be a profitable company, it doesn't matter what business we're in. So we have to always be minding the store, so to speak. And then client expectations. We talk quality, we talk schedule, safety, another key thing that's always, first and foremost in our clients' minds and should be in our mind. And of course, client relations. So today we're going to talk about soft skills and technology. Now, who can tell me what a soft skill is? I'll ask a different question. Marco, what is a skill that a carpenter needs to have? Any skill?
Sheetrock.
Sheetrock, okay. Angel, what's another skill?
Framing.
Framing. Alex, what's another skill?
Ceilings.
Ceilings, great. Scott, give me another one.
Layout.
Okay, those are all great technical skills, right? None of which I have, right? So I'd be a really bad carpenter. Those are technical skills. Those are what we call hard skills. Those are skills that you can learn in a training program, you can learn on the job, right? Those are technical skills of what you call hard skills. Soft skills are the things that are a little more challenging to learn that we're going to talk about today. Those have to do with things like how to communicate best with your client, how to manage their expectations. Those are soft skills. You're going to be like, oh, why do I got to do that? I just want to build a job. Believe me, you can be the best foreman, the best project manager out there. You can build the best job that's accurate, that looks great, that's safe. If you do not know how to deal with a client, your job will not be successful. Guarantee you. If you are not client-centric, those hard skills you have are secondary. Because they can hire a lot of other people in this city to come and build their walls or put in their ceilings. But they can't necessarily hire someone who's as good at doing that and managing the project, managing their expectations. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to talk about technology. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike for a few minutes.
How's everyone doing? These are some of the items that we're going to get into as we go through these slides.
Mike, can you stay on the side? It's okay. Thanks.
My bad side. So we'll get into these. Just to reiterate what Steve said, you know, what you all do on site directly relates to sales, right? Some of the easiest sales that we get in estimating is when a client like Turner comes and says, hey, we're building this funky lounge, we want Rich Gleason on the job. When I have that conversation before we start bidding a job, I know, okay, their team's looking for Curtis, there's good synergy on site with our teams, it makes sales a lot easier. So some of the best foremen in this company, you can see the repeat sales with clients, right? You know, Mark, for instance, Reedy at 360, right? The relationships we forged there, anything that went union kind of went our way. So it's all our best foremen and the relationships that I put in play are really the best sales that we have for the whole company, and that keeps everybody busy and makes everyone money essentially. Communications, right? Clear, concise, comprehensive communications are critical in any relationship. That's at work, that's in life, that's in anything you do. Leadership requires the conveyance of vision, goals, and expectations as well as feedback. So again, our clearest communicators are our best foremen, right? It's not being overly aggressive in an email or a communication, it's being concise with what you need to say and getting it out there. You know, not hurting anyone's feelings and being empathetic towards that, but getting a deliverable that we need and the outcome that we need. You need to be able to communicate well with trades. In this environment that we're in now, there's jobs we're on where some of the other trades are non-union, right? And that has its own complications. So it's all about communicating. When we're talking about MEPs and their penetrations and stuff like that, the more coordination we can do beforehand saves us a lot of trouble going forward. You know, who's closing up the gap to that duct and who's required to do the fire stopping there. So stuff like that, if we can get ahead of it, you know, a lot of the stuff we're doing now, especially job we're about to start now is a severely top-down construction. So we want to communicate with all the MEP trades. So we say, hey, before we close you down, this is what we're planning on doing. This is our expectation. It's just communication, which I think we all do very well on site. We could probably do a little bit better in the office, to be honest with you, but that's a different story. Also with trade partners, as we're trying to expand and keep busy, we're taking on more trades. If you've been at the airport, you know we're doing a lot of Division 10 stuff. We're doing stuff that we've never done before. If it were up to AJ, Steve, and Gary, we'd be doing a lot more stuff, trust me, but I just don't know how to estimate it yet to get us there. But talking and communicating with our trade partners and setting expectations and then making sure those expectations are aligned with our clients is a big thing. And some of our best foremen are really good at doing that. If you're a foreman and you've got multiple trade partners on your job, we don't call them subcontractors anymore, it's because we know you know how to manage them and how to manage the schedule and their expectations. And the PM team is there to support you, but again, nobody knows it better than you. Nobody knows I need this done in order for me to run free here, right? Ashton's not gonna be able to have that conversation, but Scott, you telling Ashton, hey, we can't do anything until the plumber gets in there. We, stuff that are a little bit above what we know, that communication's key because it enables us to push the clients. Documentation is important for any significant discussion. This is with everything. This is in the office, this is in the field, this is something as simple as turning over attic stock, right? We have attic stock, we turn it over. Ed's our friendly GC super. Oh, I got you, Mike, don't worry about it, nothing to worry about. Fast forward, he goes on a different job. Danny's the new super on the job. Where's my attic stock? I don't have attic stock. So that's an example. The more we can document things, the more we can put everything, your T&M tickets, right? Taking a picture, what are we patching up? Because every client has convenient amnesia when it comes time to pay that T&M bill, right? Oh no, that was a back charge, that was because you messed it up or whatever it was. No, here's the picture, here's the ticket, everyone signed it. So we gotta get a little bit better at that. Effective communication skills, active listening. So active listening, and I'm guilty of this more than anyone. Sometimes someone's telling you something and you may not agree when they first start talking about it, and all you're thinking about in your head is what your rebuttal to what their first statement was, right? And you're missing the 85% of the conversation where they're actually agreeing with you maybe. Or maybe there's a common ground that we can find. So I just implore everybody, because I will raise my hand and say I'm the biggest culprit of this. When somebody is talking to you on a client level, anywhere, hear them out. Don't be waiting to give them your response right away. It's okay to be ready for that response, but kind of wait till it happens. Open body language, right? I see it. I wish I could get out on site more, but you can see it. If a foreman's having a bad day, if a foreman's stressed out, right? There was times at Columbia when I got there, when you were there, right? And Danny didn't want to talk to anybody, okay? So that's fine too, because we all have days like that. But with the client, you want to make sure that your body language is professional and you have an open body language. If you're turned away from them, if you're not focused on them, if you're looking at your phone or you're yelling at what's his name because he's putting the rock or he's cutting the rock incorrectly, that's going to be a negative effect with the client, with the relationship, with how we're communicating. Clarity and transparency, we kind of went over. But the more transparent we can be and the more clear we can be with directions and expectations, it's going to make our life a lot easier. Being open to feedback, this is another one I'm guilty of too, right? How many of us, nobody here does anything wrong, right? But being open to that feedback, right? Because that's only going to make each and every one of us better. Right now, we're having reviews in the office, and for the most part, everyone's done great this year, but we're constructively criticizing the things that they can improve on. So I would just ask you all to be open to the same thing, right? Nobody's perfect, and the only way that you're going to get better is if you take that feedback and you apply it to your day-to-day, right? So you're going to be open for that feedback. You can't be defensive about it. Some scenarios. Every GC, I need this extra started right away, right? We don't want to start our response back to them with no, right? We want to say, no problem, but this is what's in my way. This is what's impeding me from getting this done. This is the paperwork that I need. This is per the contract what you need to do. For example, I don't know if everyone knows this, but Holt contracts, Turner contracts, I think Tishman contracts, the super cannot direct us to do T&M, okay? So if Jeff's the super and he tells Sean, run free and do this T&M, technically under the contract, unless the PM signs off on it or gives you something in an email saying, hey, go forward with this, it creates a little bit of a problem for us, okay? So again, our first response is not gonna be no, it's gonna be, this is what I need to get the job done for you, right? No, I need you here now. Let me take a look, get your laborers started on cleaning it up. We'll get right back to you. I know recently a lot of the jobs we had, OBHS for example, right? There's no room to move anywhere, right? We're sitting there and saying, how are we not productive? Well, there's 27 people in a 5x5 room. How are we supposed to be productive, right? So that's another call out, that's another communication we need in the office, because that's how we can aid you all. We can start, maybe it won't be a fight right off the bat, but it could be maybe a nice text message to the project exec, like, hey, it's a mess there, we're not productive, can you take a look at it? Or if there's safety stuff, you know, I've been on some jobs where it's completely clean. I walked in Lincoln Center and I don't even know how anyone worked there. Like, it looked like there was no laborers there, right? That's an example where we gotta communicate and we gotta push people, clean this thing up, okay?
Mike, I want to ask a question here. I'm going to pick someone who wants to volunteer. What do you guys see? Give me some examples of challenges you have on a job site with super or the client wanting you to do something that you're like, they're not ready for that, or we're not prepared to do that. Can anybody give me an example? Anyone? I gotta pick on somebody again? All right, so Jimmy Kobayas will give me an example.
Not having the material?
What's that?
Not having the material?
Not having the material, all right? So maybe we don't have the material because it's whatever it is. It's access doors, we don't have access doors yet on the job, or whatever it might be. What might be some other challenges that we have with being able to fulfill their request right away?
You don't have the full answers.
We don't have the full answers. Maybe we don't have the information, right? They're like, hey, we need you to go and finish this room. We're like, well, hold on, because we're waiting to find out where you need blocking, because maybe you're changing the furniture layout, right? Sometimes what I've seen is that the client superintendents don't know the full picture of what's going on with information flow. And so they don't know that the furniture layout isn't finalized. They're just like, build the room, right? So those are things where we don't, to my point, we don't want to say no. We want to say, hey, first we need this information. Or now that you need it, we know what you need. Okay, we need to go and order some material. Or maybe we need to get some additional manpower on the job, right? So it's being able to communicate not what we can't do, but how can we fulfill their requests? And maybe it's not going to be done tomorrow, but it's like, okay, we understand what the objective is here. How can we work together, get the information, get the material, get the manpower to make that happen? Fair? So again, we want to say no. We want to say, how can we collectively achieve what they want us to achieve? Okay?
And I think the sophistication of our clients and the supers that we're seeing on the GC level is definitely lower than what it's been historically. So I think this is just gonna be a bigger problem for all of us, right? How many jobs do we have that we're almost supering the job for the GC too, right? How many of you have been in that position, that's what we're doing, right? And I've had clients say in meetings with AJ, you know, he was great, he basically was our super, which makes AJ cringe a little bit because we're doing some of their job, but you know what, that got us the next job, right? So, you know, Mike, what you're dealing with that studio, right? You got weak team there, right? You got people sending you in multiple different directions, don't even know the components of construction and what goes first, right? So it's very easy when you're in that and you're getting pressure from the Curtis side and you got some numbnuts telling you to do something and your first reaction is to be defensive or say no, you're wrong, or you know, you got to just keep remembering that you've got your sales hat on too when you're having these discussions, okay? Factors to consider when communicating, decide on method, style, tone, right? So who's the recipient? So if it's someone in Curtis, we could be as loud and aggressive as we want. No. But it's know your room, right? If the architect's messing everything up, the time to call the architect out is not with the architect, the owner, the client, the GC, right? At the table at the job meeting. That's not the avenue to have that conversation. It's have the conversation with the GC. Listen, they got to get their act together if we're going to perform. And then if you're not getting the support you need after that conversation, then you go to your PM, you go to Sean, you go to Steve, and we'll help with that. But that's an example of that, right? We all know that the architects aren't really doing anything architectural anymore, and the engineers want to point to the architects. So we inevitably own everything at the end of the day. The drawings are getting worse, right? Leaving a lot to figure out on our own. So again, knowing who we're dealing with, who's at the table, how to communicate that stuff. When there's an issue, right? There's some foreman, there's a one-man day issue, and the world's burning, okay? Then there's some foreman where there's a 200-man day issue, and we have no idea that there's an issue, right? So it's understanding how, okay, what's the order of magnitude on this? Oh, we didn't pick up this rigid insulation, we lost a man day. Okay, but we are doing a whole ballroom outside of our plans that we don't see on the architecturals. Maybe we should raise a question about that. So it's just over communicating and how detailed the response needs to be. Sometimes you as a foreman don't need to respond. Sometimes it's you saying, hey, Eddie, can you take a look at this? I need to get back to them, I have no clue, right? You don't always need to respond right away, but you wanna let the GC know, hey, received, I'm gonna go over it with my team. Obviously, if it's something you know, right? Andre, you get an email, Andre's answering that email for sure. He knows what the heck's going on, right? So, response, right? But if it's something outside of his realm or something he may not be an expert on or he doesn't know 100%, it's having that conversation but letting the client know, hey, again, knowing your audience, who's getting this communication, right? Who's on the email chain. We can't just reply all, right? Everyone's been a victim of that. See who's on the chain. If there's names and people on there, or it's the architect, again, not a good time to start calling out the design. Just reply to the GC team. A lot of times the response, again, may be something that we contractually own. If it gets to this point, it's probably because estimating missed it, right? Or it's a good call out. I don't think we are doing roof blocking. Eddie, is this part of our budget? Is this in our contract, Mr. PM, Mrs. PM, right? Sometimes they will come hard if there's a contractual obligation, right? And then that's when the office has to help you all out, and we gotta figure it out. If we got a gap, we got a gap. If there's a gap in interpretation, we'll kind of talk that through. My favorite thing, which no one uses except me, is the project emails, okay? The reason why we set this up was so that it was more seamless for our clients, right? So they can say, if they want to send Andrew an email, but they want Whitey and Steve to see it, they can send it to Andrew in the top line, copy the job email address. I promise you, AJ, Gary, and Steve are not reading job emails. They don't have time to read regular emails, okay? So this is so everybody in there has an understanding of what's going on. Let's say Andrew's ordering GFRG for a job, and he puts the job email, and Eddie sees it, or I see it, and I'm like, we don't have GFRG on that job. We can easily bring it up and say, hey guys, we don't have GFRG on this job. Is it a change order? Is it something they're trying to sneak in? So those are things that happen when we use the job email, that we catch things, okay? Or Stephanie's on there, and he's seeing that Andrew just gave Benko a $200,000 change order. She's gonna start asking, do we have their requisition? Do we have this? So there's a lot of questions and a lot of QC stuff that happens when we use those job emails, all right? It's not to call anyone out. It's not like, I don't know what the negative stigma is about it, but I think we gotta get past it, okay? It's just an easier way for us all to communicate, okay? Period. There's no hidden agenda there, all right? And the people that are on there are counting. It's Eddie, it's myself, it's all people that care about the outcome of the job and want to help you if we can in any capacity, all right? I don't know what the grandmother rule is, but I will say.
I'm going to talk about the grandmother rule. Does anybody know what the grandmother rule is of emails? Anyone?
Always accept that food?
Yeah, always accept their food. Who said that? Allison? Is that Allison? Oh, Aldo. Hi, Aldo. Chester, do you know what the grandmother rule is of email? Nah. So the grandmother rule of email is this. If you wouldn't want your grandmother to read that email, don't send it. So what that means is...
Aldo can't email anybody.
What that means is be professional in your correspondence. Regardless of how you feel, we're not going to call people names. We're not going to say they're a piece of garbage. We're not going to say they don't know how to do their job, even though that may all be true, and we may think that. That's a discussion to be had one-on-one with the appropriate person. That's not something to put into an email. Because I can tell you plenty of times, people put things into email and they reply all, not even thinking about it, and they say, boy, that guy's a bozo. Meanwhile, Mr. Bozo is copied on the email. And Mr. Bozo happens to be the client who's paying the bill. And it may be 100% correct, but guess what? You just stepped in deep kimchi, okay? So that's the grandmother rule. The other thing is this, I want to talk about formality here for a moment. We are doing more and more projects that involve things like liquidated damages. Does anybody know what liquidated damages is? James Murphy, do you know what liquidated damages are? Okay, that's all right. Sean Mead, liquidated damages. Don't know. Okay. Noel, do you know what liquidated damages are? Okay. So liquidated damages are a penalty.
It's water damage.
It's water damage. Mold. Mold, yeah. Thank you, AJ. Liquidated damages are a financial penalty that one pays, typically tied to milestones in the schedule. So if you miss a scheduled milestone, typically substantial completion, you can be obligated to pay liquidated damages to the client to say, hey, I didn't do my job because I didn't get it done on time, so now I owe you X dollars per day. Could be $1,000 a day, could be $5,000 a day, could be $25,000 a day. That number can add up really quickly, right? So whenever we have a job that involves something like liquidated damages or LDs, we're very, very careful about the contractual obligations we have around noticing the client. What does noticing mean? That means we have certain requirements that if these conditions exist or are created, we have to notify the client. So if, for example, we are substantively delayed on a job that has liquidated damages, we are obligated to make sure that we have notified the client. And if we don't, and that delay, not caused by us, actually delays our job, and now we're late because something we had no control over, but we never notified them, we may still be on the hook for those liquidated damages. Okay? So understand that it's very important, and I'm not expecting the foreman to be sending formal notifications. I don't want you to, but there's information that you will need to provide as foremen and project managers to make sure that we as an organization meet our contractual obligations. How many of you are familiar with the weekly hot list that we're doing on many of the projects? Anybody familiar with those? Anyone is? Aldo is. Andre is. Scott? Jimmy is saying, I don't know, maybe. What is that? Why do we use that? So a hot list is, hey, these are the things, what does it sound like? These are the things that are hot. These are things we need. We need these RFIs answered. We need these submittals responded to. We need these change orders processed. We need these delays addressed. At Studio Museum, about every other week, we're sending out a delay list. Holdups, floor plans, all the areas that were delayed. Why are we doing that? That is formal notification to the client. Yes, that's a CYA, but it's really our first and foremost objective is to help them get the job built. As Mike pointed out, the CM teams that we're working with, some of them are not as strong as we'd like them to be. So we have to help do their job. We have to show them why can't we move in that area. As silly as that sounds, like it's obvious to us, but yet how many of you are on jobs that you don't see the client CM, the CM super, I should say, walk in that job every single day? I bet a lot of you. That, or you have a superintendent that may be walking around the job, but he or she seems to be clueless, right? They don't know the job.
I'm dealing with that anyway.
Right? We had that situation. Our friend out at JFK, it's getting more and more common. So that is why it's so important that we are documenting these things. Again, yes, it's to cover your ass. Yes, it's to cover our contractual obligations. But first and foremost, is to help get the job built. The quicker we get it built, the better it is for everybody, okay?
Does everyone know any jobs we're on right now that may have LDs on them?
Raise your hand. Richie, what job?
Cornell.
What's that?
Cornell.
Cornell, okay? That's another one. Brendan? What? Skirball, okay? What's another one?
Delta.
What's up?
Delta?
Are you looking at your phone or you're talking?
I'm reading emails, sorry.
Don't read emails. You missed the beginning. Put that phone in your pocket. Delta.
Actively listening. No, so it's important that you do know if you got LDs or CDs on your job, and if you don't know, ask your PM. But I think that's first and foremost one of the first things you should know as a foreman, right? Because you're going to have a heightened sense of, I need to document this, or I need to let them know about this delay, or this is going to be a problem, or we got to get ahead of this lead time. So I don't want to kill LDs right now, but it's something that can really hurt us, and it's something that you are literally the most important person on that job. You should know if you got them or not, all right? All right, so effective leaders understand the importance of and can build and expand professional relationships with clients. I'm telling you, a lot of our jobs, most of our jobs are repeat clients, and they are because there was good synergy with our operations team. You know, we're bidding a job right now for Turner. I'll give you an example. We lost the first phase of the job. The second phase of the job is now being bid, and Turner did not like who they dealt with the first phase, so they're asking for Curtis. So no, it all comes down to numbers at the end of the day, but a lot of times when that relationship there is in the beginning, it makes life a lot easier. Again, it's not being reactive, it's understanding at the end of the day, whoever I'm dealing with on this GC team is going to go back and report to their managers, and that's going to affect what jobs Curtis gets in the future and how lucrative those jobs are. You always have to have that in the mindset. As much as you get pissed off if you're dealing with some GC team that sucks, you've got to keep that in mind, and you've got to stay professional the whole time. Strong relationships are built on trust and result in meeting commitments and exceeding expectations. You know, the airport's a prime example of this, right? There was a lull in jobs, and Curtis stayed busy because of the work that we put in the airport, right? The clients knew, if Ellison's gonna be my foreman, I'm in good hands, right? Scott's watching over this job over here, I'm in good hands. The stuff that we got on the airport is all because of you all, right? It's not because we're doing anything tricky in estimating, or, you know, AJ and I took someone out different to dinner. It's not like that. It's what you all are doing on site, and what we're behind the 8 ball on some things, and we come and we make it work. We make overtime work. We make the shift stuff work. You know, we basically got walked into Delta because of what everything Aldo was doing, right? So you cannot be better representation of the company and helping sales by forging those relationships, keeping those relationships. I tell all the younger staff here, make friends with an assistant PM. At some point, they're gonna go up the food chain, and they're gonna be somebody, right? I implore you all to do the same thing. You don't need to be best friends with every single GC super, but forge a relationship with one super that if we get slow or we're looking to put bodies somewhere, maybe Andre, you can make that call to the Suffolk super and say, hey, what job are you on? What do you guys have on the horizon? Can you help us with this? A lot of times I'll get leads where Jimmy will say, I know this guy, because Jimmy knows everybody. I don't know if everyone knows that or not. But he'll say, I know this guy, let me call him, right? Or I'll know Richie worked with somebody on a complex job, and he's got a lot of respect for Richie. Maybe I can leverage that relationship to try to get some insight, or to have that gentleman or woman go into the meeting room and say, hey, can we take a better look at Curtis? Can we de-scope them a little bit more? I'd like to guide them in for a landing. It happens all the time, okay? The GCs want the paths of least resistance. They don't want a lot of change orders, and they want a very seamless relationship They don't want to be told no, right? So we'll sell them no, but just a little nicer. But that's what they want. They want it to be as seamless as possible, especially now when we're seeing the level of sophistication drop. Their managers want to deal with easy people, right? Easy trade partners. This is kind of what I just said here, but again, it just builds long-term relationships, and we get the same jobs.
So, you've heard the term, you're either a lover or a fighter, right? I will tell you that this industry, if you go back 20 years ago, was probably 90% fighters. And the other 10% were kind of fighters, but nobody was a lover. Today, you can't be the fighter all the time. It's not the, kick somebody in the backside to get them to do their job. It doesn't work. And that kind of mentality doesn't work. So you have to be a diplomat. You have to be a chameleon, right? Everybody knows what a chameleon is, right? A lizard that changes the color of its skin, literally, depending upon its environment. That's what you need to do. You need to be a chameleon to adapt to the environment you're in. We don't choose who's on the client team. We don't choose who's on the design team. We don't choose who's doing the other trade work. Maybe we choose our team, maybe we choose our crews, right? But that's maybe 5 or 10% of all the people that we're dealing with on a job. So the other 90, 95%, we don't have a choice. Can't control that. So guess what? We got to deal with it. We can't just say, oh, that person's a pain in the ass. Yeah, maybe they are, but guess what? That's the PM we're dealing with. And you're not going to change it. And to Mike's point, we just got awarded a nice job today. And the super who's running that job is one of the supers who is not the best guy at Concourse A, at Delta. But you know what? He loves us because he saw how we did the job. Do I think he's the greatest guy? No. Doesn't matter. As far as I'm concerned, I kissed his ass today. Because I wanted a $5.5 million job. Because I want to give you guys work. So, you don't know where that pain in the ass is going to be tomorrow. That pain in the ass may be the one determining whether or not we get the next job. Guess what? I can't tell you how many times people who have worked for me, who were not the greatest people, have turned around and a year or 2 years or 5 years down the road, they're my client. If I treated them like garbage, do you think they would ever want to work with me? Would they be the client and I'm now the service provider? No. So you don't know where that person's going to be next. They may be in a position of making a decision about who's doing the next job for them. Being a diplomat. Every stakeholder wants to be successful. So who's a stakeholder? It's the client. It's the design team. It's every trade partner. It's the consultants. It's the end user. It's us. They're all stakeholders, right? Yeah. Who enjoys construction? You guys may like physically the building, and I hope that you all enjoy your part of it. But I can tell you, and a lot of you have dealt with home construction. Now, a lot of you probably do it yourself, but not me. That's not my skill set. Who enjoys home construction? Nobody does. It's always louder, longer, more expensive than you thought it was going to be. Right? If you could snap your fingers and say, I'll pay 20% more, snap my fingers, and it'll be done, you would do it 99 times out of 100. Guaranteed. Construction is a messy process that nobody really enjoys. I mean, I'm not saying you don't like applying your trade, but nobody likes the process. It's cumbersome. It's cumbersome. So they want to be successful. They want it to be as smooth, as easy as possible. How do we make that happen? We help do their job. That's right. We help do their job. And sometimes you're a project manager and you're like, man, this is the owner's job. Why am I doing this? Is the CM's job. Why am I doing this? Why do I have to tell them every single week about all the holdups we have? It's the same freaking hold. Yeah, it is. Because we gotta do their job sometimes. But I will tell you, come the next job, they're gonna say, I really like working with Brendan because he did my job. They're not gonna ever say that, but they're gonna think that, believe me. Okay? We're a service provider. Yeah, we build projects, but what's more important than building a project? Building a relationship. That's what we really build. Because it's not about the job. It really isn't. It's not about, oh, that was a beautiful bathroom you renovated, that was a beautiful lounge you built, that was a beautiful office you built. Yeah, we know it is at one point, but at the end of the day, we want to always, what's next? What's next? What's next? Right? We want to build that relationship. Right? How many of you guys have had work done at your house? Anything. Electrical, that you did not do. Electrical work, plumbing work, HVAC, any of that kind of stuff. Roofing work, right? Stuff that you did not do. I know, Aldo does everything, so he says another one. But the point is, you find someone who's good at it, that you can deal with, who's not a pain in the ass, you'll hire that person every time. And at some point, the cost doesn't even matter. If you know that that person is going to be responsive and do the job right, that's what's important to you. It's no different in our business, ultimately. It's really true. Yeah, they assume we're going to build it well. They assume we're going to get it done on time. They assume that it's going to be safe, right? But they want the easy way out. They want you, us, to do their job. They want to be successful, okay? So, that's what I said. We build relationships. We don't build projects. As much as I love to say, I'm much than everybody else. I mean, a lot of you guys have been in this business even longer than I have. You can go around the city and say, I did this and I did this. And that, believe me, I love doing that. Right? I love saying how many different projects, how many different places I've started. I'm the first one to whip out my phone and show my family, look at that thing that we did. Whatever that is. It could be a bathroom, a lounge, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Right? Because I'm proud of it. And I'm proud of all the work that we do. But when you can build a relationship and when you can get that call that says, hey, Steve, the team that you had on that last job, I want that team on my next job. That is what is success. So for our long-term success, that's what we got to do. We just keep building those relationships. Okay? And as Mike said, the person that you deal with today, who might be that junior superintendent, that assistant PM just starting in the business, in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years, they're going to be the decision makers. And the more we interact with them in a positive way, the more likely it is that they're going to be like, hey, I want to do that next job with Ellison. Or I really enjoyed the experience I had with Ashton. You know, when I get an email from a client, the client accountant at Delta who says, your team is doing a great job with change orders, that's like manna from heaven, man. That's great. I know how we're doing financially, but that is, we built that relationship. Right? We built that relationship. So we want to try and connect with them at a different level. Yeah, we want to do their job, but we also want to get to know them personally a little bit. Again, don't need to know every one of their children's names or the birth dates, but I know that many of you who've been in this business a long time, you do know these people personally. I'm not saying you go to dinner every Saturday night with them, but you're able to connect because many of you are with them every single day. Every single day, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days a week, you're with them. So naturally, the discussion is going to be beyond just what's happening on the job site. That's making that connection that is really important. It's building a relationship beyond just the job. I tell you, I'm one that when I put a new contact into my phone, or even an existing contact, and I find out something about them, oh, they have 2 kids, one's a junior in high school, one's a freshman in college, and they're going to Penn State. I'll write that in there, I'll say, hey, November 2023, here's the deal. And then if I don't see that person for another year, and I have an appointment to see them, I'll look at that and I'll be like, hey, how's your son doing at Penn State? They're a sophomore this year, right? What are they studying? You connect at a different level. Try to do that, because most people are social people. They want to have friends. You know, how much time and effort do you expend building these jobs? It's huge. It's huge. You want to be able to have a connection that's not like, oh shit, I gotta go to that job again and deal with those people I hate. No, it's like, hey, I enjoy being with those people. Maybe not all of them. Okay. Whoops, what the heck just happened? Okay. We want to be a little proactive here. So what does it mean to be proactive? Who's going to help me answer this one? Vincent. What does it mean to be proactive?
Doing things without being told.
Doing things without being told, okay? What else?
Looking ahead.
Looking ahead. Okay? Being out in front of the issues. So that means knowing our work, knowing what we own in the scope sheets and the leveling sheets, knowing what's going on with the other trades. I tell you, some of you, I don't know how you do it, but when I walk around the site with you and I say like, oh, why can't we work over here? Well, you know, there's an outlet over here that they're moving and the plumber isn't quite done and we're waiting for this. You're telling me all about all the other trades work. And I'm like, that's amazing. Because obviously you guys know the job and you know as much about the other trades work as the clients do, and sometimes even more. That is gold. That is gold. I know that some of you, Mike mentioned this before, almost act as the superintendent because you forge those relationships with the other trade foremen so that you can collaborate, not because you want them to do a great job necessarily, but because you want us to do a great job. And you know that if you help them help you, it helps you, right? If you know that, hey, if you can kick that duck guy in the butt and say, hey, can you go over and do the bathrooms over there? Like, that's really kind of a priority. And it's like, yeah, no problem, sure. And the CM sitting in their shanty, they don't even know that there were bathrooms on the job. Right? I mean, come on, that happens. Or some of the times we have these, you know, superintendents and project managers out there that I don't know what they're managing to. They don't have a schedule, which just blows my mind as a former CM. So it's like, okay, so you don't have a plan, we'll create a plan. It'll be the Curtis plan. We're not going to call it that, but we're going to drive the job. And I will tell you that, and this came up again in our award meeting today. And the client was like, you know, oh, this is a really important client and we want to beat the schedule and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no problem. We'll go as fast as you want us to go and we'll go even faster. And the super was not one of the best supers, said, we'll not have an issue with Curtis. They'll be out in front of everybody. Okay? That's the reputation we have out there, that we are pushing jobs. And any good CM will say, that's what I want. Because you know what that does? It gets their client to be successful, it gets them to be successful. Okay. Creating workflows, breaking down phases, creating our own look ahead. How many times, again, you don't have a real schedule, you create it. We create it. Here's where we're going. Hey, here's where the holdups are. Can you get rid of some of those holdups so that we can move faster? Knowing the schedule to the extent that it exists, knowing what our work is inside and out, but also knowing how that interacts with the other trades. Setting off alarm bells when our window of opportunity is closing. Okay, what does that mean, right? When we got a high-end job, a lot of, let's say, level 5 taping on ceilings, and they're like, oh, well, I know you had 3 weeks to rock and tape these ceilings, but now we're going to give you 5 days. You're like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's not going to happen. Sorry, compound doesn't dry that fast, and you're not going to get the right job. We're not going to do it, right? But it's seeing that concern and raising the flag and saying, hey guys, don't forget, we got an ensemble process over here that is a progressive process. All the MVPs have to be in, everything has to be signed off, and then we can go, and once we go, it's X days, 4 days, whatever it is. And you can't do it in 2, you can't do it overnight, it's 4 days, okay? And then, it's not just saying that, but then, okay, how can we, Curtis, help the other trades and the CM to make that happen? We got to take that step. Requesting weekly site walkthrough meetings. Guys know out of JFK, every week I go and walk that site. Why do I do it? Because I love going to JFK? I love being on the Van Wyck at 5 o'clock in the morning? No!
See me.
I love seeing Aldo. Well, maybe. Really, I love seeing Jimmy more than Aldo. Tell him. No, because, first of all, I want to know what's going on the job. I take personal pride in knowing that size job. I've committed myself to that client. Secondly, I want the client to know that I know. I can tell you many, many times the client is coming to us to get information about what's happening on the job. It blows your mind, but you know what? That's a great position to be in because we're doing their job. It's exactly what they want. The next time over, who's going to make the job easier for them? Curtis is. Because we're going the extra step. We're taking the extra effort to show them how we can get the job built, how they can be successful. Sending follow-up emails. Making sure that we as a team collectively, project management, estimating, field operations, that we're all on the same page, right? Making sure that if an issue comes up, we think it might be a financial issue, making sure, hey, project management, we got a potential issue here. Let's make sure, what do we own by contract? Is it really an extra? Let's make sure we communicate that with our client. One of the toughest things to do in the world of communication is communicating bad news, right? Who likes to tell anyone bad news? Nobody does. Nobody does. But sometimes you got to tell the client, hey, this is not coming on time because of X, Y, and Z. Hey, that's going to cost you an extra $30,000. It never gets any easier the longer you wait. It gets harder. And the client gets pissed off because you didn't tell them when you knew. So communicating tough news is an art, but the sooner you do it, the better. You need help with that? Work collectively. You need help with that? Come to me. I'm great at it, right? Because I understand how to do that in a way that is not in their face. In a way that says, I know this is what you're expecting. Let's talk about what you're going to get and why. Why is it not going to be done on time? Why is it going to cost more? Maybe we have other options that we can pursue to help ease that pain. Okay? We have to come to them with solutions. If all we ever do is tell them what's wrong and not how to fix it, we're not going to be perceived as one to help the solution, right? It comes back to, You know, you want to be the person to not always say no, but to say, how can we? Not why we can't. How can we? How can we still be successful with turning over this job on time and meeting your expectations despite the issues that are out there? Maybe it's money that can help. Maybe there's an overtime program. Maybe we can expedite some materials. Maybe if you expedite some of the other trades to get us into those areas quicker. Okay? So it's finding ways to be successful. Okay. Accountability. So I'm just going to do a time check here real quick. Excellent. We got 2 minutes, and then we're going to take a break. Accountability. Accountability is really all about ownership. If you are accountable for an issue, you own that issue. If you decide that you're going to make someone else responsible, you're going to delegate that, whether it's financial issue, build a schedule, redo a margin, go build a wall, at the end of the day, you're still accountable, right? All you as foremen know that. If a worker on the job screws something up, it's still your accountability. You've all dealt with that a lot more than I have. So, you own that. So, what do you want to do? If you're going to delegate that, you're going to make sure that that individual has the resources, the knowledge, the ability to be successful. Right? Whether that's a training issue or just communicating information. It doesn't matter whether it's project management, whether it's estimating, whether it's field, it doesn't matter. Right? It's about helping the others to be successful. You're still accountable. You still have that ownership. And at the end of the day, if things go south, people are going to come to you. But those of us who are successful have said, I get that, and I'm willing to take that responsibility. I'm willing to be accountable. Hey, you know what? On any job, if we screw up, I'll be the first to go in. And those of you who know me know I will back you up 100,000% to our client. Even if it was your fault, I'm going to say, you know what? That's on me. Because at the end of the day, I'm accountable. I'll take that. Because I trust that each one of you has been given the tools, resources, and opportunities to be successful. I'm going to hold you responsible, but if something goes south, that's on me. I want you to have that same mentality. And if you do, and if you help others have that mentality, you will be more successful. Okay. One last thing, judgment. So I always say, we pay you for two things. Two things. Number one, to solve problems. Very simple. Because every day we're solving problems. Every day. Something is late, something isn't right, whatever it is. Number two, we pay you for your judgment. No one can know what you know. No one. You have to decide what of that information needs to be disseminated to others. You have to decide what needs to go to that carpenter on the job, to your project manager, to your client, to whomever. If you got that knowledge in your head, you're the only one who has it until you decide, you make the judgment that somebody else needs to know it. And then how do you disseminate that information? It goes back to communication. So, if you show poor judgment, that's a big issue with me. Right? Now, that comes down to experience, expertise, training, right? But use your judgment, because that's one of the two things you get paid for. Okay? Now, we're going to take a break right here. Before we take a quick break, I'm just going to ask everybody to go around the room really quickly. Tell me your name. I already know your name, so the others know it. What you do in the company and where you're currently working, and we're going to start with Purna.
Hi everyone.
Go ahead.
Hi everyone. Purna Chandra Venkatesh, known as Purna. I'm a BIM engineer at Engineer.
Excellent.
Brendan O'Day. I'm an associate project manager. I work at studios, Skirball, and a bunch of other projects.
Excellent.
Ashton Malone Dunson, APM, working at JFK and now New York Presbyterian.
All right, Andrew,
Andrew Dempsey, Senior PM, projects at JFK.
if you don't know Whitey, it's a bad thing, just sit down, Whitey. Lance,
Last Rice Law, former Curtis politician, working out of League Chess in Brooklyn.
excellent. Gus,
Bill Spelliver, working at JFK.
hardware expert extraordinaire. Yeah,
John Gilmore, foreman at Essex House.
thank you. Vincent,
Vincent Aranda, Associate PM, JFK LaGuardia.
all right, Lethan,
Ethan Hamel, Associate Engineer.
and Janita. Pete,
Pete Bailey, Curtis Foreman, JFK.
Eddie,
Ed Webster, layout, JFK.
Richie,
Foreman, Rich Gleason, foreman, LaGuardia Airport.
master mill worker. Noel,
Noelle Gibson, layout, I'm currently at Cornell Tech.
excellent. Evan,
Evan Sharp, carpenter foreman at Studio Museum in Marlon.
Caesar.
Purchasing.
Everybody knows Caesar. Mike,
Mike Bosco, job superintendent over at Studio Museum.
Billy.
John
John Holman. Sorry, John. My bad.
Foreman, JFK.
Thank you.
Stephen Fitzpatrick.
Stephen.
Carpenter foreman, Studio Museum.
Carlos Cornejo, foreman, Cornell Tech.
Ruben.
Ruben Soto, carpenter foreman for Access.
James.
James Murphy, foreman, working at Delta.
Aldo.
I'm Aldo, general foreman, JFK.
Pain in the ass. Chester.
Chester Risky, Curtis Foreman, helping out OBHS.
Okay, on the bench, who we got?
Hi, this is Shani Patil, I'm the BDC intern at
Engineering.
Hi, I'm Brad Mandre,
Bibbs. Gotta talk up. Who's that? Rhea.
Everyone knows.
She runs the shop. Sean.
Sean Reed, general foreman, NYU Long Law.
All right. Harsh.
Arshals, Curtis, Engineer.
Angel.
Angel, foreman, helping out Glenn at NYU.
Okay, Glenn.
Glenn Henderson, foreman, NYU Outdoor.
Marky Mark.
Mark Marker, foreman, 360 Park.
Andrew.
Andrew Tech, foreman, JFK.
Ellison.
Allison, General Foreman, JFK, Terminal 8.
Eli.
Eli, Foreman, helping out at Studio Museum.
Brand new dad. Scott. Sleepless nights. Scott.
Superintendent, JFK, Anjanita, OSCS.
Yeah, she's behind the
If you're hiding, I can't see you. Victor.
Victor, foreman at JFK.
Suffering Jets fan, James.
Jimmy Tobias, foreman, Terminal 4.
Alex.
Alex Carpenter, LaGuardia Airport.
Narcissus hiding behind the tree.
APM, assistant project now at 10 corner in multiple projects.
All right, Mari.
APM, working at NYU Essex House.
Andre.
Andre Prestia, general foreman, currently building NYU Skirball.
All right, Richie.
Rich Vasquez, Superintendent Curtis.
Oh, really? You work for Curtis? Excellent. Woo! Danny.
Israel, foreman, NYPL.
Sean.
Sean O'Keefe, Director of Project Management.
All right, Eddie.
Ed Enderly, Director of Pre-Construction, Curtis.
We're not miss. Jeff first. Go ahead, Jeff.
Jeff Lundquist, controller Curtis.
Okay.
James Fong.
James. Go ahead, James.
Studio Museum.
All right. You guys know Neha now? The HR person, make sure you get paid, and you know Mike and you know me. Great, we're gonna, we got George in the back, who else do we have? AJ, anyone else? Did I miss anyone else? All right, Gary was here, but he left. All right, we're gonna take a 10-minute break. So, take a break, and we'll be back. Thank you.
hear me in the back, let me know. I'm not going to read this, but this is our diversity and inclusion clause that I want to take a minute for each of you to read it on your own. If you can't see it in the back, let me know. Can you see it in the back? Okay. All right, so take a minute and read this, please.
Right up to the OSHA handbook.
All right, so this is obviously something that we take very seriously at Curtis and Anjanita. And so we want to make sure there's a zero tolerance for this behavior. And so it's very important in being in the OSHA handbook and being in a lot of companies' handbook and our handbook that we make sure that we are committed to fulfilling this. The one thing I want to point out here is we were talking about it earlier about electronic communication. So we've got photos, cartoons, drawings, emails. Everything is traceable these days. Everything. Text messages, emails. Given the state that we're in right now with cybersecurity, it's really important that we make sure that we're not sending offensive emails or offensive texts, even to friends, about someone else, just so that they could be found later on and used against the company or yourself. So it's really important that we take this seriously, and there will be a zero tolerance for this. So tips for supporting DEI in our workplace. Treat everyone equally, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, and other defining characteristics. As of late, the categories have definitely broadened to include a lot, so we want to make sure that we're being obviously PC on our jobs as well as in our interactions with each other. Everyone should be treated based on job competency, effort, and results. We shouldn't be calling people names. This is all, common sense, but it has to be said because it's very quick to let out an obnoxious comment, apparently, and so we want to make sure that we're treating everyone based on their performance, job competency, and what they can do. We need to support DEI efforts on the site by reporting any concerning situations or treatment to the client, including graffiti. This is where Eve, unfortunately she couldn't make it today, but this is where she would come into play. If there's anything that happens on the job site that just does not look kosher, that doesn't look right, obviously including graffiti or even interactions that you all have with one another, Eve and myself are available for you to contact and talk to about these situations. There are many times that I've talked to some of you just about other situations, but if you're feeling offended, if you feel like there's something happening on the job site, you need to speak up. It's really important that we have a cohesive environment here and that everyone is looking out for each other and making sure that we're working in a good environment. So foster an inclusive environment, all should be heard. This can lead to broader perspectives and better decisions. As a company, and AJ, I know he's in the back, and Steve, and Gary, they all take this very seriously, and it's very important that all of you do too.
Can I add
Yep.
anything to that? You mentioned text message and email. It extends to your social media, even your personal social media. Personal social media is no longer private, right? It's usually very visible to the whole world. We've had instances where people on a project where there's a confidentiality related to the project and the design of the project, and they post it on their own personal social media. We've got to be really mindful of our clients, the owners, and what their demands are. And if we're uncertain, let's err on the side of conservative and not post those things. If there's something that you want to say and it's not going to be taken well by most of the world, I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, and no one wants to shut down, free speech. But especially on LinkedIn, where you're representing yourself as a member of Curtis Partition. But if you're or Enginata or OSCS, if you're representing yourself as part of any of these companies on your social media, there are harsh implications of you using any harsh language and saying anything that is out of alignment with the company's values. So I would suggest on your private social media, remove company names if you have them there. On your LinkedIn, be very mindful of how you're speaking. Fair? Thank you.
Okay, so this, how many of you have seen this portrait before? Okay, so.
Hello?
Hello. So this is a really good portrayal of, you know, what we've been talking about in terms of diversity, but more specifically, it's about equality, equity, and justice. So you see in this first picture over here on the left, it's portraying inequality. Some of the things that you see are that the tree is tilted more to the left, right? So then obviously this individual, this little kid, can get more apples. Or maybe it's too much for him, right? And so he doesn't know how to receive all of those apples. And then you have this kid over here on the right that can't figure out how to even get one apple. Okay, so this is a picture that depicts inequality. Then you move on to equality. What do you see here different from the first picture? They're both on ladders.
Same size.
Same size. So they have equal resources to go apple picking. What else do you see?
Tree's still tilted.
Yep, the tree's still tilted.
But the kid on the right just got a chance.
Yeah, exactly. So still doesn't have a chance. So you can have even distribution of resources, but you still might have inequality, right? So then we move to equity down here. What do we see here on the bottom left picture? Taller ladder. Tree less tilted, or?
So they can both reach the tree.
So they both can reach the tree, okay? But there's definitely, yep, see, you got it. More fruit on the left-hand side than there is on the right side, okay? And so then we have justice here on the bottom right. And what do you see here?
The tree straightened up and now there's even distributed that far. And same
Yep.
size ladder.
Same size ladders, yep. The tree is actually being pulled, right? Being pulled here with these two strings and with these, I'm like Steve, I'm like, what's this?
Kickers.
Kickers. And so bringing up the tree, right? As you go on your day-to-day, right? I'm not asking you to think about this in, you know, when you're doing your role and responsibility, to think about equality, equity, and justice. But in the grand scheme of things, this is a process, okay? It doesn't happen with a snap of a finger. This is something that we have to embed in our culture, we have to embed in our minds, and really treat people with equal opportunity, and provide equal resources for all, especially at the workplace. Any questions?
Thank you, Neha. Okay, Scott? Scott's going to talk about technology. We are a technology-based company. Great.
Great. All right, everybody.
excited.
So I know most of you know what BIM modeling is. I'm sure most of you have seen models on the job. Those of you that haven't, if you have any questions, let us know. But modeling basically, and what we do with the BIM is we're modeling the project. We're looking at clash detections. We're working through all the problems that usually happen in the field, right? It's something that we can do now on a computer, remotely. We can have discussion with other trades. We can figure out the problems before they hit the job. Scanning is another thing that we've been doing lately, where we can come to the job with our scanning machine and we can scan the job. We can get a lot of information for kitting. We can get information for prefab. We can get information for the GC if they wanted a topography type setting for the job site. So that's another thing that Engineer is doing.
Scott, can you talk louder, please?
Okay. Then we have a prefabrication, right? So everybody knows or should know what we're doing with prefab, right? We try to look at different details. Eddie will look at that through pre-con at the beginning. We'll kick that off to the job. And the main reason that we wanted to prefab, right? Safety, we can control, we can work in a controlled environment. We can save some time and some money. We can save the general contractor some general conditions with cleanup and laborers. We can also help with the labor force on the job as well. So we have Enginita. If anybody doesn't know who Enginita is, right? Everybody introduced themselves before. They're our Curtis affiliate that provides the BIM and the scanning services, right? Then we have OSCS. I'm sure everybody knows who OSCS is, right? Whenever I come walking on your job, you're like, oh, here we go, what's for prefab today, right? So, but OSCS is also a Curtis affiliated, right, based in New Jersey, and it's a full union shop in case anybody didn't know that. What am I pressing, Steve? Why do these services matter, and how do they help our organization, and how do they help you? Like we just said, you know, we can work with OSCS. We can work in conjunction in the shop and in the field. So you're getting two things done at the same time. We can ship stuff there. We can get stuff to the site to help you move faster, to help you have a cleaner job site. With Enginita, we can help you figure out problems on the job site. We just had something at DPL, right in the staircase, where we were trying to frame a wall. Aldo said to me, you know, that pipe's in the way. I called Puna. We look at the model. That pipe is not in the model. Now we got a change order on that job site to build a soffit, to extend our wall, and that's a service that we can help out with too. So Enginita processes, right? We do our modeling. If anybody doesn't know what modeling is, right, we'll take all the subcontractors on the job, they'll do a coordinated model, and they'll basically build the job in 3D, right? And through that 3D modeling, we're able to coordinate where we need to frame, or where the tin knocker needs to put his feed, or whatever it is, right? We can take care of all that stuff that we normally would have taken care of on the job site. Now we can do that off-site. Like I said, laser scanning, we can scan, we can figure out deck heights, we can figure out beam penetrations or possible existing duct and MEP penetrations, and that will allow us to do our kitting, do our prefabrication to help the job site. Enginita can also do shop drawings. We've done that for a few of our PMs, where you need a shop drawing of a reflected ceiling or whatever else you might need. We've done a few of those on each job. Then we have 360, right? So everybody's going around now, most of it's the APMs, doing the 360, taking photos of the job site and checking out the progress. So we just had that with Ellison today, right? 360 is very important because we walked the job. Vince did 360 scan a couple weeks ago, so all the ceiling tile were in, everything was done. Now we go to the job today, ceilings are out, things are missing. Now we can go to the general contractor and say, hey, this work was done, we deserve a change order to make sure, you know, to get the work back done. And then line out, right? Line out, it's everybody's favorite topic lately, line out, right? So line out is important because it helps us track the progress of the job, helps us track our budget, helps us track manpower, deliveries. There's so much that goes into line out. I understand sometimes that it's cumbersome, it takes a lot of time, but please, line out is a very important thing that we are doing right now. So our major projects require BIM coordination, right? And there's different levels of BIM coordination right now. We've done recently DPL, we've done Columbia, we've done Eastbox, CCA, right? So all these big jobs that we've done BIM models for. And even if the job or the general contractor does not require a BIM model, we might do a model ourselves in-house just to help with our kitting plan, our shop drawings, and our prefabrication. So here's a model of a scan. So this, what was this plan? Which one? Okay. So this job got scanned, right? The job gets scanned. The job goes into CAD drawings, then we have a design model, you can update your BIM, you can create that model on Revit. We have all the 3D information that we need of that job. This was this Wall Street? Right, was this Wall Street, Rich? I believe, right? I think this is Wall Street, I don't remember. But here is our kitting plan. We also, right, we scanned Wall Street. We were able to create a kitting plan for Wall Street. And our kitting plan, we were able to send, you know, the framing numbers to quadrants. And it just helps with ease of loading. It helps with less material waste. Here's another one that we're running clash detection. So the main thing that we do with our BIM modeling, when we have a coordinated model, is we run clash detection. So we'll put our model in, while the other subcontractors will put their model in, and then we'll run a clash. And we'll see where different components of other trades are in each other's way, or hitting each other, or causing, for us, our biggest thing is king studs and corner studs, right? And ceiling heights. We want to make sure that none of our king studs are being taken out by ductwork or pipe. Corner studs, we want to make sure that there's no MEPs below our ceiling. That's going to cause the ceiling to be lower. So once we run that clash detection, then we're able to go back to the GC and the architect. They can figure out what they want to do, who's going to move what. Maybe we have to lower a ceiling. Maybe we have to move a door. Whatever it is, we're able to find out all those problems through that coordination.
Scott, can you just talk for a minute, talk about what it is that we model of our work?
So we typically model our framing. It depends on the LOD, right? The level of design, right? So we would have the highest level, we're framing, we're showing all our framing, all our blocking, we're showing drywall, we're doing as-built drawings at the end of the job, ceiling framing, black iron, drywall on the ceilings, your ACT. We're modeling every component of what we do, right? So
This is big with top-down construction.
it's huge with top-down construction because we can see where we're going to be duct heavy, right? That's a great point, right? We can see where there's going to be a huge trunk line down the middle of the corridor before it's even put up. We can go to the general contractor and say, listen, we're going to frame this wall, we're going to drywall down, we're going to tape it, we're going to fire stop it. And believe me, right, Rodney, we're going to get a lot of fight from the GC all the time. I wouldn't do that. The tin knockers are like, well, I don't even, but it's something that helps us in the long run, right? To do that top-down construction. So that's a great point. Thank you. Kitting. So kitting is providing a pre-cut bill of material for metal, top track studs, sheetrock, and other materials. Engineer will develop a kitting plan by modeling the framing using the design documents with kits broken down by room showing all quantities. And all our jobs will be kitted, right? So first job that we really did this on was probably one Wall Street, where we took the job, we broke it down into quadrants. We might even broken it down smaller in some of the big floors. And we got all the material together and sent it to each quadrant. It helps with the loading, like I said before, helps with waste, and it just makes the job a little bit easier to load, a little bit easier to manage. Here's an example of kitting. I don't remember what job this was. It could be Facebook, correct? So here's all our studs. We have a key on the plan, right, to show where each color goes, right, to do have an example? So here you go. So we would have,
You can't read it.
you can't see it, but everything here would show you your room number. It would show you how many studs you need, the sizes of the studs that you need, the cripples, the headers, your door studs, your king studs, anything like that would be on that little plan there, and that coordinates with the drawing. And Angelina does all of that process in the office. Like I said, we can do shop drawings, we can do panel layouts, we can do your RCPs, you can do floor plans, elevations. We've done sections and details where the GC has asked us for stuff like that. Like I said, scanning, right? We can scan new work, we can scan existing work, we can tie that into our BIM model. We can provide existing conditions such as slab heights and floor levelness. The last job that we scanned was Essex, I believe, correct? Ambulatory, sorry. Okay, so ambulatory. And from the ambulatory scan, and with the help of Glenn, we were able to come up with a bunch of pre-cut materials to send to the job site. We were able to figure out things that weren't really on the drawing, maybe a room or a wall, an existing wall wasn't where it was supposed to be on the drawing. We were able to help out the general contractor, and we were able to provide those services. We can do, engineer can provide a 3D scan of any job site with an accuracy of 1/8 of an inch, and a point cloud that is graphically depicts all scan surfaces. So, for those of you who haven't seen a scan, I would ask you to maybe reach out to Kuna and see what a scan looks like. It's very cool to see. When I first saw it, I was amazed at how much detail a scan can pick up. And believe it or not, maybe I'm aging myself, but this is the future of construction, right? When I started, right, Whitey, you had a beeper and a roll of quarters, and your phone, your beeper went off, you went down, you called the office, and they answered the question, right? So now it's totally different. Right now, everything can be seen, everything can be taken care of, mostly prior to you stepping on site. So this new job that Steve just talked about, we're going to start modeling, and we can model in conjunction with the framing or before the framing. We can have everything figured out before Danny is getting studs sent to the job. This was at your other job, Danny. For
Vista?
Was it? No. B&B, yeah. That was for JT Megan, right? The JT Megan job. So we came onto the job site, there was issues with the benchmark. They didn't know what to do, how to do it. We came, we scanned, and the different colors represent different elevations of plus or minus above 0. So we did that for the general contractor, gave it to the general contractor. At that point, they were able to establish a benchmark that was good for the whole job. Open space, right, is a thing that we've been using lately. I think it's a great idea. You guys walk around with your camera, you upload your photos, your videos, and then we can see what's happening on site, we can see the progress of the site, and later on if something happens like ceiling tile coming out, or damage on a wall, or damage on a door frame, whatever it might be, we can go back, look at those scans and say, well, all the ceiling tiles were in on October 20th, and now it's October 27th, and 3/4 of them are out. So you have to give us a change order for that. So open space is a great tool just to track everything that's going on the job site weekly.
Just to add to 360 open space, because I don't think it's being used enough right now. If you're a foreman and you got a job with LDs, can you think about how that would help you getting a 360 walkthrough of your job every week? Anyone?
I use the 360
Right?
to check
So when
the
they come to
material.
Danny and they say, on November 29th, you should have closed up all the walls, and they see the amount of MEPs that are behind in those walls, right? That's our defense, right? It helps project management when they put their requisition in for November, and we may be trying to overbill, right, to get cash positive on the job, and they come back and say, no way we're paying you for sheetrock bottoms, you didn't do any of your sheetrock bottoms. And we could say, hey, why don't you walk around the space here virtually? You don't even need to go to the job site because we know you haven't been there. And go check it out virtually. So there's so many fruits that we get from the 360. It also enables, you know, if AJ can't get to a job or Gary can't get to a job and they want to see how a job's progressing, right? They can walk through the job, right? There's so much fruit that comes from it. So we're pushing the PMs and the operations team to get Arshels and the team out there doing the 360s all the time. But if you're a foreman and you're seeing your job's not getting 360, push your team. Say, can we get someone here to walk the job? There's so much stuff, and just archiving those videos, what it does for us and protects us from is huge.
It also can help with delayed claims and stuff like we did on Wall Street.
Yep. So again, line out, not going to beat a dead horse, right? Line out is something that we need to do. It helps estimating, right? Because they can see progress. They can see how long it takes to do something, right? They can actually see that, so that can help them with future jobs and future bids. We can track the progress of the job. We can see how many men we need, how many men we don't need. Maybe we gotta add more. Maybe we gotta take people away. It's a great way to look at the job and let everybody understand what's going on that job on a weekly basis. And then prefab, go ahead, you can take it.
Just go back to line out real quick about communication. This is kind of internal, between Curtis and Janita. So it's really all stems from the information that you guys give to the engineering team. They're gonna do a quantity takeoff of everything that you guys have provided. So if you guys are very detailed, very easy for us to understand, they'll be able to give good data back. That data is then given to the project team. They get to see the productions that are being achieved. We get to be able to have really good conversations with Whitey, with Scott, with Jimmy, the supers, the foreman, to see can we switch out different people on certain tasks. Everything that we do has time associated to it, has dollars associated to it. So this allows us to look at that. This also allows us to look ahead. Every week we get to do a look ahead, so we get to put in or highlight areas that we intend on working. We know that things are gonna change, but this is the plan that we had going forward into that current week or that 2-week look ahead. Again, those will tell us how many man days were allotted for that time frame. We'll be able to see how many men or women should be on that job site for that week, and we'll be able to then adjust our crew size accordingly. So just wanted to bring it up there again. Louder?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So just wanted to bring it up. It's all based on communication. Your communication to us will allow for better communication back to the project team. And Janita is always the ones doing the quantity takeoff, so please be as detailed as you possibly can. That's less questions that they have to ask. It's less questions that I have to answer on Wednesdays. It's less questions that the project team has to then figure out on the Monday review. Let's see. Prefabrication, like what Scott brought up, parallel workforces. As you guys are laying out on the job sites, we've identified what items can be made off-site, particularly panelization, ladders for any soffits that can be made. We could be building those at the OSCS shop while you guys are laying out. Right when layout is approved by the GC and the design team, we can then deliver those right to your job site. So your job is actually being built in conjunction while you're doing another task. You can keep your workforce as low as possible. Worker density, we all realized that during COVID. That really, we still are pushing this really hard. Reduces the waste. These for less laborers, less cost on the general contractors. So there's less measuring, there's less cutting, there's less height, and there's definitely enhanced safety. We're working in a controlled environment where you guys are dealing with a lot of different elements, a lot of different individuals. So we're always looking for prefabrication. These are just some of the things that we are capable of. These are just the bare minimum. You guys and girls are definitely gonna know more things that we can prefabricate than I'll be able to identify on a drawing, or that we'll be able to have a general discussion in the office. We're always looking for new ideas. We will test things out. You can always communicate that with your project team. They'll be able to look at it, give a cost-benefit analysis, be able to tell you which way is cheaper, which way is faster for the production. And I'll just tell you, if it's even, prefabrication wins. Because if you're gonna do it one time, you're even. The second time, you're gonna be even better, so it's faster, it's cheaper. So I know people always have a stigma against prefabrication, but this is the way, was the future, this is now the current, this is now the present. So we can always do a lot of things. We're trying to push that right now. Even next week, we have a meeting that we're presenting on how we can do panelization in an interior project over for a hospital. So there's definitely, everybody is now starting to look and really go into the prefabrication realm. Just bring up a couple of the items that we do. So here you have the melt sheetrock for any of your headers. That's just standard stuff. U's, L's, Z's, we can do anything folded edge, anything that can eliminate a corner beam. We minimize taping. Here you go, here's the knife edge. As you can see, radius, we're able to make that in the shop. There's a lot of communication. Again, it goes back to communication. The better that you guys can give the detail, to the shop, the better that you guys can communicate with the project team, with Whitey, with Scott, with Jimmy, with those guys that have the knowledge. And you guys can definitely come through with a lot of different and great ideas that can really be sharp. So I mean, here's just another mill. You have a double step, so you'll be able to do a pocket. I mean, very easy. We don't have to put a corner bead in there. That eliminates a whole step. A taper does not have to come into that area, only to take just the seams. Here you go right now, more milled sheetrock forms. Very easy. Cement board did this. Richie did this on Wall Street. These were in every single bathroom. So instead of you guys wrestling with cement board, cutting that all up, we're doing it over at the job site. Or at the warehouse, I should say. Drywall grade, framing. Armstrong has the simple soffit. OSCS can do the same thing in the job site. So we can do it faster. We'll have it to your job site before they can even identify the parts and pieces that are needed on your job site. Here you go, radius framing. You got the plywood, you got the wiggle board, you got everything right there. This was made in the shop, all three of these, and then delivered to the job site in pieces. Another one here, here's metal framing. Right here, there's the ladder. If anybody doesn't know what a ladder is, it's a vertical drop. It's just your soffit. All it is, we use telescoping studs, shoot to the deck, tap it down, where you spin the laser, get to the height that you need. Here, we've had panels that were 4-foot panels, 6-foot panels, whatever size that we happen to deem fit for that project. We put sheetrock bottom board on this side on one side. We've had it where it's just been regular panels. So this allows us to lower costs, be able to win the next job, be able to impress the clients, again, win the next job. So, and we're always looking for new innovations. We're looking at something with top-down construction, basically building a ladder, potentially above, and then having a panel underneath. This allows us to be able to go ahead of the mechanicals and then still be able to prefabricate and bring panels in into a job site. But again, it all goes back to communication between you, Curtis team, OSCS, all being one, breaking down the barriers.
Ed, the last picture, that was Cozen. We had the electrical in there as well.
Yes, that's right. AJ, we actually did pictures ahead of, but we actually brought, was it Need Electric into the warehouse. They ran all the electric into the panels that we had. We worked in conjunction with them. We delivered to the job site. It worked out pretty well. I mean, we're trying to do that with innovative electricians, with innovative MEPs. We're always looking to go to the next step. We're always willing to take that one chance, try, because that's the only way we're ever going to move forward, is by taking those chances, by trying. It may not all work, but we're going to find out what does work and what doesn't, and then we're going to maximize those opportunities. So here's metal framing. This is like H metal framing. We've built this. We've built hard lids. This was a learning lesson, this project. But now we know. Now we can be able to do it and take that into the next project. Because this was the next project right here. We brought those lessons learned from Facebook, and we brought them into an exterior application. We built all these panels over at OSCS. They were engineered. We had countless Zoom meetings, and then they were brought to the job site, and we did a few of these gates over at JFK. As you can see, this is over bus stop. I mean, we had all these panels built. These were E100 panels. These are just like big exterior soffit. We had everything here. You have panels that were made 2 foot wide by 27 feet high. So there's a lot of coordination, a lot of discussions, a lot of communication between a lot of parties to make this work. Prefab order process, manufacturing first plan. So during the kickoffs, I'll create the plan of what I see to be done from the drawings. We'll provide that visual plan so you guys can see that from the RCP and then from the floor plan. You'll also be able to get the cost codes that are associated with that work and the footage. Project teams are supposed to just keep running tabs of that for our master manufacturing first plan, be able to see where we are against budget. There's going to be those is the basic prefab items that we want. You guys are going to come up with more items than we'll ever see. So communicate, like I said earlier, communicate with Whitey, with Scott, with Jimmy, your supers, with Richie. and be able to figure out what you guys can do, because you're gonna be able to identify more items than we'll ever see. The project team, like we said, will be able to identify. Then the foreman is supposed to complete the prefab order form. Usually we say 2 weeks. That's just something that's safe. You guys know we've turned things around pretty fast. We'll do whatever we can to make it work for you, but definitely it goes back to communication. Please communicate with us early. We'll communicate with you during even the bidding process. We'll try to identify certain items. Just real simple, here's a pre-order form. The best that you can do is just your length, the quantity, the dimensions, and just if you know, like, is it MMR board? Are you using USG Rock or are you using National? That allows us to be able to give you the right product. And just special instructions, let us know your loading requirements. That's a real thing that just gets overlooked all the time, but that it does have cost. It does have implications of what we can provide for you and what you guys can bring into the building. So.
All right. So one of the things I said at the beginning of this is that we have to find ways to differentiate ourselves from the rest of the carpentry outfits out there. So it's all about how do we add value to the process. Through technology, that's one of the ways in which we add value. All right, so technology is critical, and then let's come back to the soft skills, right? Because it's about creating the best customer experience we can and creating that in a way that they see real benefits. And I will tell you again, at this award meeting today, the client said, oh, we love prefab. We want to make sure you maximize use of prefab because they understand the benefits of it. Okay.
Steve.
Sure.
Sorry,
Of
course.
course.
I actually have to leave. I have a dinner in Jersey, but I wanted to thank everyone for making this and actually being very focused and engaged. I want to thank everyone, Steve's leadership, Mike's leadership, Ed, the whole team who participated, Buddy, Scott, anyone who participated. It was a lot of effort that went into this. This has been like months in the making. So thank you all for doing what you did. We have a great leader here who's really helping shepherd a lot of good skills, soft and otherwise. And I think we should all be paying attention. I know I am. I'm learning every day from him. So let's make sure that we really commit ourselves to that learning process. The last thing I'll say, and I don't want to steal your thunder if you're going to say this, but hope to see you guys at the holiday party. We're going to say it. So we'll have more conversations then, but thank you everyone. Thanks for all the hard work.
Thank you, AJ. So just to put a little bit of a bow on this, accountability, managing the client expectations, giving them a great service, a great experience. I will leave you though with one phrase that I want you to keep in your mind. And the phrase is protect the entity. If anybody ever asks me, really, what is your job at Curtis? My job is to protect the entity. So what does that mean? That means every decision that I make, I keep in mind the fact that I want to make sure I'm doing what is necessary for the long-term success of the company. Now, that doesn't mean that every single decision is what's best immediately for the company. It may be that we got to spend a little money, we got to make an investment, we got to take something on the chin for that long-term gain. But when you are all out there interacting with our clients, and I talk about having those relationships, that's extremely important. But at the end of the day, what needs to be sort of blazing into your mind is protecting the entity. So we want to be friendly. We want to be friends, but we got a job to do, and we want to make sure that Curtis is where we're really focused on. Because if the company is successful, we're going to be successful. Okay? So we talked about, without talking about it, these three words: integrity, innovation, and partnership. Those are the Curtis core values, for those of you who don't know those. Integrity, innovation, partnership. We talked a lot today about each one of those. Integrity with DEI, innovation with our technology, partnership with how we help the client succeed, right? Each of these things is critical to our success, and I hope that if somebody asks you, what are the core values at Curtis? Integrity, innovation, partnership. 3 words. 3 words. Okay? All right. Guess what? We're at the end. So, before we break, I'm sure that nobody's going to say anything, but I'm going to ask anyway. Are there any questions? Aldo? No questions?
I got a couple questions. BIM modeling. It's usually done on the original drawings that we get our original takeoff. Is it done on every job?
It is not done on every job at the same extent. So there are jobs that require us to model, and obviously we take it to whatever level, it's called the LOD, the level of design that's required, which dictates how much information we feed into that model. On those jobs where you have an active model, where the CM and the other trades are involved, oftentimes any significant changes will be wrapped back into the model. And we'll have to remodel and re-coordinate those elements. If the client and the project do not require modeling, we will oftentimes at the beginning of the job model the project for our kitting purposes. So we know exactly where the walls are, how tall they are, how wide they are, what the partition types are, what the gauges are, so that we can help them to then produce material kitting. Okay, that's one of the key things we use the model for, even when the client doesn't require it. Okay, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah.
Other questions? Great question. Yes, sir.
How often do we scan a job?
That, not as often as I would like to, and it really depends upon the job. And the question was asked about how often do we scan. It depends upon the type of the job, the conditions, whether or not it's a requirement or whether or not we see a benefit out of doing it. Okay? So there are times when we do it purely for our own benefit. There are times when the CM will ask us to do a scan so that we can ascertain, or they can ascertain, what some of the existing conditions are on the site.
Living on older buildings where all of a sudden the college inches off.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's where a scan comes in handy. Other questions?
Yes, I have one.
Yes, Mr. Bosco?
With the kitting. So now you have it off that BIM model, and the ductwork, we're gonna use the ductwork, is not laying out to your openings, your headers, that you frame the walls in front of them. And their ductwork is not laying out to your opening.
Right.
You're right. The guy just, added too much ductwork. Now he's cutting your studs to get his ductwork go through your room.
Absolutely, it happens too frequently. So that is just the benefit of actually doing a model. But if we're the only ones modeling our effort, it doesn't help to coordinate with the other trades. So we love it when a job actually requires modeling, because then it forces that coordination before we're trying to build it in the field and finding that there are all these conflicts. Other questions? Okay, thank you all very much. The holiday party is Friday, December 15th. More information to follow from Neha et al. Neha, you have something to add?
No, I was just gonna say food and drinks, and then we can't go out this exit, so you'll have to go through where the codes are to get out.
I smell some good food and I hear some jars of jingling. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.